Wow, okay, we are into cars for completely different reasons, because today's the day! We passed 1,000 miles, finally broken in my Lotus Emira. It took me like, I don't know, 4.5 months, way longer than I expected. I remember when I first got my FRS 10 plus years ago, hit 1,000 miles within 1 month, but got sick a few times, probably the Rona, traveling a lot. Also, my girlfriend is now in a different city, so I'm splitting time between Vegas and where she's at. And also, Vegas is kind of miserable during the summer. So, anyways, gonna give you guys a pull to Redline in a second. But what I want to talk about today is the gratitude I have for us as car enthusiasts in 2024 to be able to drive vehicles that excite us and feel like a treat just to be behind the wheel. Now, the last week or so has been pretty tough for me because soon before I did have another flu and possibly, again, COVID, and I wasn't able to work out. Some personal stuff happened, and I was just in a funk then. Being sick, not working out, and that personal stressor all happening at the same time put me in a negative space, and it was hard to get out of. I was not enjoying life. And I'm lucky that I was able to go to the garage, get in my Emira, and go for these drives in the evening with my local Las Vegas friends. And it didn't cure me by any means, but it was a nice escape. And I feel that cars have always been this amazing escape for me. Even when I was younger, I'd be watching things on YouTube, reading my Car and Driver magazine, and it was a way to escape my stresses, my worries. I've always appreciated that about cars. And then in my early 20s, I got an FRS. And that took it to a whole new level because now, rather than just reading and consuming content about cars, I could finally experience it myself, because prior to that I was just, driving my parents' old Camry or whatever. And I don't think you need to have... And I don't think you need to have a fancy car to get that feeling. Here we go. So you go to sport mode. All right, here we go. I have many thoughts about how this car drives, by the way, including its bias for understeer, which I talked about in my first ever review of an Emira. I thought that was just for the tour car that they were letting people drive, but even in these first editions, the customer cars, very prone to understeer, as I've been experiencing from pushing it a little bit more in the last week or so, because you don't just go from 0 to then redlining. You actually are supposed to, in the braking procedure, you're supposed to push it a little bit more after 500 miles at 100 RPM increments every 100 miles. It's like a whole process that some Lotus engineer had written down that I followed quite closely. So anyways, more thoughts on the Emira driving experience, things I like and don't like about it in a future video. We'll do a Canyon review in the near future. Now, going back to what I was talking about earlier, I think if you're watching this channel, you're probably somewhat of a driving enthusiast, more so than a car enthusiast, because I'll tell you a story. I was at a car meet here in Vegas, and there was an owner with a Ferrari, and I was talking about the experience of his Ferrari versus a 997 GT3 and the things, the relative strengths and weaknesses. And we were chatting back and forth about that a bit, but he quickly steered the conversation to say, Kevin, at the end of the day, do you want to tell people you drive a Ferrari or a Porsche? Because if you tell them a Ferrari, they're going to assume, worst case, it's a 355 or whatever the cheapest Ferrari right now is, at least cool Ferrari. And if you drive a Porsche, if you tell them you drive a Porsche, they're going to assume it's a Cayman, a $50,000 car. What do you want to tell people you drive? And I was like, wow, okay, we are into cars for completely different reasons, because I could not give two fucks what someone thinks when I tell them whether I drive a Porsche or a Ferrari or whatever. For me, it's very much about the experience behind the wheel. And then that got me thinking that I feel like I'm kind of picky with what I like in a car. The DE5 Integra back there, as an example, a lot of people love it. And if you guys have seen my reviews of it, I'm like, hey, it's very competent for a front-wheel drive car, but it's not very fun. And over the years, driving more and more cars, you're able to refine you're able to refine your taste and pick out the nuances as to what you like and don't like on a car. Now, in comparison, when it comes to watching movies, I am the least sophisticated person. I will watch a movie review and I will learn so many things about the nuances, about the storytelling and such from that YouTube review. Like Critical Drinker has great reviews as an example, that I didn't pick up on myself. But the nice thing about that is most movies I enjoy. The average person may, I don't know what the percentage would be, but let's say they love 1/3 of movies they watch, they think 1/3 are okay, and they don't like 1/3. For me, it's like 80% of movies I like, and probably half of those I'm like, this is awesome. So I watched Bad Boys recently. Is it the most impressive movie in terms of storytelling or whatever? Obviously not, and there's a lot of holes with that. But maybe because I don't watch that many movies, maybe just a couple every year, maybe because I haven't really focused on trying to analyze them, I don't have that level of refinement and nuance to pick out all the little details, all the things I like and don't like. So I tend to like a lot of movies, but when it comes to cars, I'm a little bit more picky, and I still very much enjoy driving different cars and experiencing different cars, but I'm much quicker to say what I do and do not like. Is that a problem? I don't know. I think it actually allows me to appreciate certain things about cars more so than I normally would. Like the Aston Martin V8 Vantage, right? Everything about that car feels so right to me. This car as well, there's so many things that I love about these vehicles that if I didn't have that level of appreciation, I think I'd be missing out on some of the upside. But then the downside, the trade-off, is that if I am driving a DE5 or whatever other car that I'm not the biggest fan of, I'm not going to enjoy it as much. So it's as if I'll have higher highs and lower lows as a result versus having a more moderate level of enjoyment, if that makes sense. But zooming back out, I was just feeling really grateful in the last several days because now I'm feeling back to normal after my week-long funk. And a large part of that is because of the magic, the beauty of cars. And today in 2024, you can go buy a Mazda Miata or an FRS, GR86, BRZ, S2000. And I mean, maybe you like muscle cars, Camaro. There's so many vehicles that are available at affordable price points that give you that enjoyment behind the wheel. And then you just need to find some road. And here in Vegas, the roads aren't that great. You got to be a little bit creative. But it's an escape. It's a way to push your own limits, to see your skills develop as a driver. It's a way to escape your worldly problems for a few minutes or for a few hours. And I think for that, we've got to be grateful. So many car enthusiasts, I mean, because of the internet, it is so much more common for all these different niches to go more and more cynical, where by being cynical, people are protecting themselves. They're like, oh, I tend to see things in this negative way. I'm not naive. I know better. I'm smart. And if you are positive, if you are like, hey, things are kind of great right now, people try to poo-poo on you and say, hey, this is silly, naive, childish behavior. How dare you? But at the end of the day, would you rather be the person who is positive, who is in love with life and in love with the hobbies that you enjoy, or would you rather be a person who is constantly finding reasons to complain? Anyway, my friends, I am very much excited to bring you some more Emira content, Emira comparisons now that we've hit break-in. I need to get an oil change before I start pushing this car continuously. So you can do a couple red lines or a couple hard pulls and drive it harder for shorter bursts, but they don't want you to sustain that over longer periods and generate more heat until you get that oil changed and get out all those metal shavings and such. So stay tuned. We're going to have a proper Emira Canyon review in the next few weeks. Much love, my friends, and I'll see you all in the next one.